following is an important message to my subscribers and listeners. There will not be a podcast next Wednesday, March 26, 2025. And there will not be a podcast on Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. The next Conversations for College Success podcast will be on Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining Conversations for College Success. Today, I'm going to answer some questions, so it's Answering Questions Part 2. The first one was, do I really have to practice interviewing? The answer is absolutely yes. Unless you've been answering questions in interviews for the last few weeks or even several months, that information's not going to come naturally to you or easily to you. So you want to practice, you want to write down the questions, and then you want to practice the answers, and then you want to have one or two people interview you. You will always be nervous in an interview. However, if you have practiced your answers to specific questions, that will help you with not only those questions, but any other questions that you might be asked as well. One of the things you don't want to do is be reaching for answers. That happens when you haven't interviewed for a long time and someone asks you about something that happened in your past and it doesn't readily come to you. Unfortunately, in that instance, you don't necessarily look like the exceptional interviewer that you would like to look like. In addition to that, what you're not trying to do is memorize your answers. I say that because since you're the one who've written down your answers or thought through your answers, no one else is going to know the order of what you're going to say or how you're going to say it. So you don't want to, because I've seen this, oh, wait, I'm sorry. Okay, let me start over. They didn't know what you were going to say to begin with. So whatever order you put information in, since they didn't know what you were going to say, they don't have a cheat sheet. Whatever you answer will be fine. So that's why you want to practice, because each time you practice, it may not come out the exact same order, but your response will be comfortable and smooth. And that's exactly what you want to have happen. Another question, do I really need a co-op or internship before I find a full-time job? The answer to that question is absolutely yes. You want to do that for several reasons. One, you want to have an idea of, do you even enjoy the work? Do you enjoy the atmosphere? Because although we can pick a major, unless you've worked in that field, you may not know what people do from day to day. You may only see the high-level things that take place and not the nitty-gritty detail of what it takes to get to the finished product. So you have to enjoy doing the nitty-gritty detail and what the finished product looks like. In addition, employers don't necessarily want students who don't have experience. Years ago, they wanted to teach students or new hires their way of doing things. Now, in the times we're in, they need people who are walking in with basic knowledge so they can give them an assignment and they can go right to it. So having the opportunity to have worked in your field lets you know what are some of the things that's going to be asked of you, what are the expectations generally when that's asked of you, and even you will have learned what questions do I need to ask when someone gives me an assignment so I can complete it as close to their expectations as possible. The other thing that you will walk away with, what is the culture of different organizations? And that can help you as well. And I'm going to say, finally, at least from what I'm thinking of, a lot of employers look at co-ops and internships as an opportunity to try you out before they actually hire you. Try before you buy. So you want to have an opportunity to have worked in 1, 2, maybe even 3 different organizations so you can understand their culture, see what their expectations are, see how they interact with each other, and then those become organizations that you will feel comfortable going back and looking for full-time employment with. So there's several reasons why you definitely want to make sure you have completed a co-op or internship. And it definitely helps you see, is this the correct field for me? Is this the correct area that I need to be in? And you really want to find that out before you accept a full-time position and then find out this really isn't what I want to do. Or worse, it isn't what I enjoy doing. I had a podcast on the value of a mentor. And the question was, Are mentors really that valuable? And the answer is, again, absolutely yes. Let me share with you a scenario you might find yourself in. You've been given an assignment, or you have a presentation, or you're about to go in and meet with your manager, and it's going to be a difficult conversation. You're going to be upset. You don't want to do the wrong thing, or you need to respond to something. And in a professional environment, you can't just say what's on your mind. You have to say it in a way that the person will receive it, understand it. And if there are things they don't understand, they will ask you questions. It isn't a definitive that you're going to quit if this doesn't work or whatever. Once you start working, once you have expenses, you can't just walk out of an office and quit and expect to have a position the next day. It's starting to take a lot longer between the interview process and employers trying to decide what they want, their expectations. And then the last piece is, what's the fit? Do you fit with our culture of the organization? All that to say, if you have an important meeting, whether it's the same day or coming up, you need someone that you can pick up the phone and call and have that conversation with. Those are people that are your mentors, or those are people that you know well. And even if they're in the middle of something, they will stop to listen to you so that they can help you get through your situation that you are handling. That is the value of mentorship. That is also the value of having really good connections with people. I know a lot of people who have 500 people in their network, but they don't know half of them, or even, quite frankly, a third of them. So, with that being the case, the majority of people in your network you should know. You should have the ability to pick up the phone and have a conversation with them, either about your industry, their industry, or some of the decisions you need to make. That is really the value and power, not only of a mentor, but also of having excellent interactions and relationships with people. So that's really one of the reasons, too, that I will say that we want you to build relationships with people. That means you stay in contact with them periodically. Does that mean every week? Of course not. Does that mean a few times a year? Yes, it does. And that contact can either be phone, you can go to coffee with them, lunch with them. You can also respond to their information on LinkedIn. Again, there's a variety of ways to connect with people. You can even attend events that you know they'll be at or they could be at, where you can meet new people, but also have an opportunity to continue the relationship with an existing contact or connection. And I say that because I promise you, you will find yourself in a situation where you need assistance as soon as possible, and you want to be able to pick up the phone and have maybe three people that are your go-to people. So you call the first one, they're not there. You call the second one, they're not there, but the third person is there, so that you don't have to walk into a meeting unprepared or walk into a meeting being concerned about what you're going to say. The other question that I received dealt with making decisions about next steps. And next steps can be in any number of scenarios. The one that I was asked about was, you're in an organization, you've worked there before, you think you should be promoted. However, your length of time and their length of time are different. You're including in your length of time the time that you have worked as a co-op or internship in addition to working there. They are starting your clock from when you work there full time. They're not starting your clock from the previous time that you have worked there. Now, once you've had maybe one or two positions, whether it's at that organization or another organization, then they can look at you with the background and experience that you bring to an organization. So you don't want to walk in as if you know everything, because you don't. In that short of a time that you spent together, which is important, meaning whether it's 3 months or 6 months, you've learned a lot. You haven't learned everything you need to know, though. So there will still be definitely your first year. Oftentimes, it's your first 2 years before you start to feel comfortable. When you first start out, anything someone asks you, you have to ask someone else. After about, I'll say, 3 to 6 months, people will ask you a question and you'll actually already know the answer. And then you'll start to feel good about yourself, because now every question you're asked, you don't have to ask someone else. But within the first 2 years, there will always be something that you can be asked that you have not worked with or had experience with. And that's where you want to look to people that you've built relationships within the organization, as well as any external, whether it's mentor or colleague that you've worked with that you can have a conversation with. Part of that, too, remember, is it's not just how can you help me, it's how do I start to build a relationship? And one of the topics can be work related. And then over time, you get to know the person personally, and you really do then have the relationship that you want. You can talk about personal issues, but you can also talk about their family, and you can also talk about work related situations, all of which are helpful to you as you progress. I hope you've enjoyed the answers that I've had for you today. Again, please do not hesitate to send questions to conversations for college success at hotmail.com. Again, send questions to conversations for college success at hotmail.com. I'd like to thank my subscribers and my listeners. And if you're not a subscriber, please go ahead and subscribe. Look forward to talking to you next week. Bye-bye.